In this video, I'm going to cover the first section in Chapter 15. Now, Chapter 15 is on options markets, and here I'm going to give you an introduction to the basics of options. The first section that I'm going to cover in this video is on option basics, and that's mainly a lot of definitions, and I'm going to introduce you to the two main kinds of options, which are called call options and put options. Let's jump right into it. So the first one I'm going to introduce is called a call option. What is an option? An option is a contract that you can purchase. You have to buy these. And if you purchase a call option, it's the following. It gives you the right, but not the obligation, to buy an asset. What are we talking about here with an asset? Think of a share of stock. So it gives you the right to buy a share of stock at a specified price. We're going to call that either the exercise, or I will commonly call it the strike price. And we're going to use the variable capital X to denote that, on or before a specified expiration date T. Let me give you an example of a call option. So a call option on Apple with strike price X equals 110, an expiration date of capital T equal May 19th, gives the holder of that option, or the person who has purchased that option, it gives them the right to buy a share of Apple on or before the expiration date, May 19th, for the strike price of 110. Okay, and a call option is called a call, or the term call is used in a call option. Why? That's indicating the option to buy, because when you buy something like a share of stock, you're calling it to you. So that's where that terminology comes from. Okay, if this sounds a little bit confusing initially, like call option, it's this option to buy at a strike price before an expiration date, let me give you a nice analogy that I think will help you think about an option, especially if you're new to this. And that is, a call option is similar to a coupon. When you have a coupon, it gives you the right to buy something for the price specified on the coupon. That is like the what? The strike price, or the exercise price. Typically, the coupon expires at some time. You must use it before the expiration date. And that is just like our expiration date on an option. So to further this analogy a little bit more, let's think here. Now normally you don't have to buy a coupon. A coupon is given to you. However, in option markets, you actually have to buy this option. So it's like buying a coupon. But we're going to focus on, once you actually have the option, then what is its value? What does that mean to you? So let's use our analogy of a coupon to understand this better. Let's say I have a coupon to buy a pizza at your favorite pizza place. So let's quickly draw a picture of, maybe this is a pepperoni pizza or something like that. And the coupon says you can buy this pizza for $10. So the coupon specifies a price, $10 right here. That is our exercise or strike price X, okay? So this is what we are calling X, the exercise or the strike price. Additionally, a coupon has an expiration date. So let's say it expires May 19th. What would that be? We're going to call that capital T. So that is our expiration date, capital T. And what does that mean? That means you have to use the coupon, of course, before May 19th. Now, when would this coupon be valuable to you? When would you want to have a coupon like this? So let's walk through a scenario. So if you walk into the pizza place and you see that large pizzas are selling for, let's say, $25, and you've got a coupon to buy it for $10, then is that coupon valuable? Of course it is. And you're going to pull out your coupon and you're going to use your coupon. And how much is it going to save you? It's going to save you the difference between $25, that is the price of pizzas right now, and what the strike price is. I'm calling it the strike price just to give you the analogy, but that would be the price on the coupon, the strike price. And that difference is $15, right? 25 minus 10. So this coupon would save you $15. That would be basically the value of the coupon, okay, after you've already purchased it. Not factoring in the price that you paid for it, but if you just have a coupon and you're going to use that coupon, that would be the value of the coupon. So in this case, you would use your coupon Let's say there's another scenario. You wait until May 19th, that's when the coupon expires, and you go to the pizza place, and maybe they're having some big special. Maybe it's a grand reopening or something like that, and it's all pizzas for $5. Okay, so you walk in there and then you look at your coupon. Your coupon you can buy for $10, but all pizzas are selling for $5. So are you going to use your coupon? Are you going to pull out your coupon and say, no, I'm going to pay $10 for this? Of course not. So what are you going to do? You're going to throw your coupon away and you're going to pay $5 if you want the pizza. So it'll be the same here. So again, let's replace this coupon and let's replace this pizza here for a share of Apple. This is the ticker symbol for Apple. And this would be, say, 1 share of Apple. Okay, and so that's what your coupon is for. And the strike price in our example, what did we say that was? The strike price was 110. So we're going to place this with 110, and it's got an expiration date. So a call option is like having a coupon to buy a share of stock. There's that fixed price on there. That's the strike price. And let's run through, again, just like we did with the pizza, when would this be valuable? Okay, so right down here, I've got this coupon on Apple. I'm calling it a coupon. It's a call option. Okay. If Apple is selling for $114 on May 19th, are you going to exercise your option? Let's remember, our call option has a strike price of 110. Think of that as that was what was sitting there on the coupon. 110. Apple is worth 114. You walk in on May 19th to the markets. Are you going to use your call option? And the answer is, of course, yes. And using an option is called exercising the option. You're saying, hey, I want to buy for my strike price. Okay, so that's yes. And how valuable is that ability to exercise? Basically, how much money is it going to save you? Well, if you didn't have the coupon, you'd have to pay 114, or if you didn't have the call option, you'd have to pay 114. The fact that you have the call means you only have to pay 110. That's going to save you $4. So that was that difference between the price of Apple and the strike price. Okay, so in this case, what do I note here? If the price of the stock, we're going to call that capital S, if that is greater than the strike price, then you're going to use the call option, and it's going to save you the difference between what the stock price and the strike price. Okay, so that's what we just established there. The other scenario is this: if Apple is selling for 108 on May 19th, right? You've run out of time and you want to see, okay, do I use this call option or not? Will you exercise the option? And here, of course, the answer is no. Why is that? If you want to buy a share of Apple, you're going to just pay 108. You're not going to use your call option and insist on paying a higher price. Okay, so no, and the value of the option is 0 to you, basically meaning you just throw it out. All right, so these two scenarios basically summarize what can happen with an option if you wait till expiration. We're going to turn that into a formula, okay? And we call that the payoff of the option. Basically, if you hold it all the way until it expires and you come that last day, how valuable is it to you? And we see here that it depends on the stock price, right? Now the stock price here is called the underlying asset of an option. Okay, why is it called the underlying asset? It's what underlies or gives its value to this call option. So I might call it the underlying stock, and that's where that terminology comes from. So every option, right, every call option must refer to an underlying stock. In this case, our underlying stock was Apple. Okay, let's turn this payoff function into an actual formula. So for a call option, what are we looking at here? The payoff to the holder at expiration. Again, this does not take into account how much you paid for the option. That's something separate, but assume you already have an option, you hold it to expiration, and then on expiration, how valuable is it to you? All right, there are two cases. That depends on the value of the stock, right? The value of that underlying stock. So here's our notation. S sub capital T, what is this? This is the stock price at expiration at time capital T. That's what I mean by that, the stock price at times capital T. If that is greater than the strike price, then what do you want to do? Of course you want to exercise, right? Because you're able to buy it for less than what it's worth. Basically, this is what it's worth. and this is what you can buy for. And you always want to buy low, sell high, right? So this gives you a chance to buy lower. And the value is what? How much does that save you? That saves you the difference, S sub t minus x. Okay, so that's case one where it's valuable and you exercise. Case two is the price of the stock is actually below the strike price. Okay, in that case, you're not going to insist on paying a higher price. So what do? You're not going to exercise the option. You're basically going to throw it out. That's what you would do with the coupon. And its value to you was 0, right? Didn't save you anything. Okay, so when you're looking at an option and at expiration and trying to understand how valuable it is, you can sort of think it through like we just did, right? It's the option to buy. Should I use it or not? And that's very good to know. But it's also nice to turn it into a formula because then we can put it in things like Excel and stuff like that. So let's combine these two cases into a single formula that's going to be down here. So we can combine the two cases together to write a single formula for the payoff of a call option. So we're going to call this the payoff formula. My notation here, C stands for call. So this is a call option. What time are you at? You're at expiration. That was capital T. And this formula says at expiration, if you want to calculate how valuable an option is to you, what do? You calculate the the stock price minus the strike price. And you look at that value and you compare that to 0. So 0 basically corresponds to not exercising it and throwing away. This basically corresponds to if you exercised. And it's an option. So it's your option, your choice. And of course, you're going to take the larger of these two. You're going to take the maximum of these. Okay. In a couple of slides, we'll get an example with this formula. For now, put some stars by it. Very, very important formula that you'll probably want to memorize. Okay, the payoff of a call option. The maximum of S sub t minus x and 0. All right, so let's keep moving on here. This is a call option. There is another kind of option, and that's called a put option. And you're going to see it's very similar to a call option. A call option is the option to buy. A call option is very much like a coupon. This one, a put option, is the option to sell. Let's walk through that. So it is the right, but not the obligation to sell. There's the difference. An asset, again, we're talking about a share of stock when I say an asset, at a specified price. And again, it's called either the exercise or the strike price. But now this price indicates the price you can sell a share for on or before an expiration date. Again, you have to use it before some time. All right, let's walk through an example of this and understand its payoff characteristics. A put option on Apple with a strike price of 115. So if we stop right there, let's think about this. A put option on Apple. So this is going to give us the option to sell a share of Apple for that strike price. So this one has a strike price of 115 and an expiration date of May 19th. And that gives the holder of this option the right to sell a share of Apple on or before May 19th for the price of 115. So again, we can see it's very similar to a call option, except you have the option to sell. Let's walk through scenarios of when you would use this option and when you wouldn't, okay? And again, we call that exercising. So if Apple is selling for 114 on May 19th, will you exercise this option? Let's think about that for a second. This option gives me the ability to sell Apple for $115. Apple's only worth $114. Would I do that? Of course I would do that. I want to get the higher price. In fact, I'm going to get $1 more than what Apple is worth. So the answer is yes. And how valuable is that ability to exercise? How much more money do you get by having that option? Well, you're able to sell it for 115. That was the strike. And Apple is only worth what? 114. So that is going to gain you $1. So we're going to see here the value of that option in this scenario is equal to the strike price minus the stock price. So that's one scenario we would exercise. What's the other scenario? If Apple is selling for 118 on May 19th, are you going to exercise this option? Well, if you exercise, you only get, what, $115. Okay, so of course you're not going to exercise. You'd rather just sell it for 118 in the market. So the answer here is no, and the value is 0. All right. So what's a good way to think about a put option? Put options are a little bit different than a call option. The call option, that coupon analogy, I think is very good. But for a put option, I think a different analogy is good. So put options can be thought of as a form of insurance against a drop in the market or against the drop in the price of something. Let's walk through the scenario where that makes sense. The holder of a put option can always sell at the strike price. And so this is regardless of whether the value of the stock crashes or not, you can always sell at that strike price. So in the case where the market drops, there's a crash, the price of your stock goes way, way down, the ability to still sell at the strike price as opposed to the market price basically insures the holder against a price drop. So again, a put option is very much like insurance. Let's see that, for example, if Apple is currently selling for 110, and I hold a put option with a strike price of 105, okay, now again, I probably had to pay for that, but once I have that option, that put option, I can always, at least before the expiration date, I can always sell for 105. How does that protect me? Well, let's say Apple is 110, and let's say it drops to $50 a share. Uh-oh, if I just held shares of Apple, right, and they dropped to $50, boy, I would have lost a lot of money. However, if I hold shares of Apple plus I have a put option, and my put option has strike 105, then what can I do? Well, I'm going to pull out my put option even though the price of Apple is $50. I'm going to pull out my put option, and I'm going to say, hey, I still get to sell for 105, okay? So in that case, I cannot lose more than $5 on the price drop. Again, I might have had to pay for this option initially, but once I've paid for it, now that strike price limits the amount that I can lose, no matter how much the price drops. So again, put options, many people, if they hold shares in something and they want to protect those shares against a price drop, they can buy a put option. And the strike price always guarantees that they can sell at that strike price. Okay, once again, as we did with the call option, we set up a formula for the payoff function. We're going to do the same thing with the put option. And this just involves first just thinking it through, when does it bring value, and then we turn that into a formula. So again, this is called the payoff function of the put option. And this represents the payoff to the holder of the option when it expires. So they wait all the way to expiration, and then how valuable is it that last day. So case one, if the stock price, remember this represented the stock price at expiration, if that is greater than the strike price, then of course we always want to sell at the highest price. We want to get that highest price for selling. So in this case, we're not going to exercise our put option. Okay, we just throw it out, because if I exercise it, I sell at a price of X, but the market price is higher, so I'm not going to use that, so the value is 0. And then the other case is what? If the stock price has dropped, it's below the strike price, now I can pull out my strike price and I exercise it, and that allows me to sell for this higher price. And how much does that benefit me? It benefits me the difference between the strike price and the stock price. So once again, we have two scenarios here, and we can turn this into a formula that then we could put in Excel and do calculations with. All right, so combining these two cases together, we write our single formula for the payoff of a put option. And now here I'm using P sub T to represent the value of the put option at expiration. Again, this is called the payoff function. What do? We take these two cases, either this or this, and you get to choose between the best of those. So we take the maximum of X minus the stock price, or 0. Okay, once again, very important formula. It looks a lot like the call option payoff formula. The only difference is that these two are switched around, the strike price and the stock price. Let's get some practice calculating these payoff values of options. Okay, so I'm going to give you 4 different problems here. You should probably first walk through these on your own, and you might try it in 2 different ways. First, you might try to just sort of think it through, what is the definition of a call option, the option to buy, would I use it here, how valuable would it be? And then the second time you walk through, you should probably try to calculate it using those formulas that I have. All right, I'm going to go through the answers here, and I'm mainly going to use the formula but maybe on the first two I will also sort of think it through. So the first one, a call option with strike price 20 if the stock price at expiration is 22. What is the payoff of this? Okay, so first we remember a call option is the option to buy. You're calling the shares to you. Strike price, we called that X. That is what you can buy for. And then the stock price at expiration, that was S sub T. Let's quickly think this one through. Would I exercise this option? Of course I would, because it allows me to buy for $20, something that's worth 22. How valuable is it to me? $2. It's going to save me $2. Let's see if we can get that out of the formula. So our payoff formula was this, C sub T, that was the maximum of what? The stock price minus the strike. Stock price is 22, the strike is 20. There's my $2, and I take the larger of that, or 0, and of course the larger is 2. So that would be the payoff function. Let's move on to the next one. This one is a put option with strike price 85 if the stock price at expiration is 88. Again, try this on your own. First thing to note here is a put option is the option to sell at the strike price, not to buy, but to sell. Okay, so this one, I can sell for 85 something that's worth 88. Does that make any sense? No, of course not. So this one you would not exercise and the value would be 0. Let's walk through the payoff function of this. So again, P sub T is the maximum. Now go back to the previous slide and look at the formula. The maximum of the strike price minus the stock price, or 0. In this case, the strike price is 85, the stock price is 88. And if I look at this, this is -3. I don't want to lose $3. So the larger is 0. That basically corresponds to not exercising and throwing it out. And this one is actually worthless at expiration, right? I would not use it. That's what that means. Let's quickly go through the last ones here. A call option with strike price of 55 if the stock price at expiration is 47. Try to think this through and do the formula. This one I would not exercise because this is the option to buy. Let's look at the formula to confirm that. The maximum of S sub T minus X. S sub T is what? 47. The strike price X is 55. 47 minus 55, that is -8. Of course, that doesn't make any sense, so I'm going to choose 0 instead of losing money, so my payoff would be 0 there. And the last one, a put option with strike price of 30 if the stock price at expiration is 24. Would I exercise this one? Yes, I would exercise it. What is the value? What is the payoff function? Maximum of X minus S sub T. X here is 30, right? S sub T is 24. That is a difference of 6, so I would get $6 more by using that put option. So the value to me at expiration is $6. Okay, great. So very important that you can both think through both a call and a put option and calculate the payoff function of these. Those payoff functions are very, very important. They basically tell us the value of an option when it comes to expiration. All right. Now, options have a lot of terminology. We've already hit some of the terminology. A call is the option to buy. A put is the option to sell. There's an exercise or a strike price. That is the one that specifies the price that you can buy or sell for. They have an expiration date, just like a coupon. There's additional terminology that we need to learn, and that's one of the things that I want you to take away from this chapter is basic option terminology. So along with that comes the moneyness of an option. What is the moneyness? So this is option terminology, and it's used to classify an option by the cash flow that would result with immediate exercise. That is, you're looking at an option and saying, hey, if I exercise it right now, would it have value? Okay, and we specify some terms to represent that, and these are called moneyness terms. Okay, and the first term is in the money. We say an option is in the money if what? Exercise would generate a positive cash flow. That's basically you're looking at the option right now, and you say, if I exercised it right now, would it have value? Let's give an example of that. A call option with a strike of 100. Remember, a call option is the option to buy. And this would say, I can buy for 100 when the price of the underlying stock is 101. So if I exercised right now, would that be valuable? Yes, it would save me $1. So we say this option is in the money. indicating that right now it has value if it were exercised. Okay, the opposite of in the money is out of the money. This is one where right now if I exercised it, I would lose money. It doesn't make sense to exercise it. Exercise would generate a negative cash flow. Here's the example. Once again, let's look at a call option. Assume the strike is 100 and the price of the stock is 99. Would you exercise that? No, if you did, you're paying $1 more than the value of the stock. That makes no sense. You'd essentially be losing $1. So that option you say is out of the money. Out of the money. And then the final one is the break-even point. That's at the money. This is the exercise of the strike price equals the underlying asset or underlying stock price. So this would be, once again, our call option. If it has a strike of 100 and the stock price is 100, then you're right at that break-even. Like, would I exercise it? Well, it doesn't really matter. So we say that that option is at the money. One thing to remember about moneyness terminology. Moneyness terminology refers to the payoff or the value if an option were exercised right now. It does not refer to the price that you paid for that option at all. Okay, so you might have paid a lot for an option, okay, but it doesn't matter what you paid. If right now when you exercised it, it would have value being exercised, that's like this case right here, a call option with a strike of 100 when the stock price is 101. You just look at these numbers. You don't refer to how much you paid for it, okay? And you just look right now, if I were to exercise it, would I get a positive cash flow from exercise? That's all you look at, okay? So that is the moneyness of an option. And you want to be able to recognize the moneyness of an option. Many people, when they talk about options, they speak in terms of their moneyness. That's very, very common to do. Let's do an example on moneyness. Classify the following options as in the money, out of the money, or at the money. Okay, so the first one, a put option with a strike of 25 when the price of the stock is 23. So what do we ask ourselves? If I exercise this right now, would it be of value? Would that generate value? So a put option, if I can sell for 25 something that's worth 23, yes, that would be of value. So that is in the money. That is in the money. Let's look at the next one. A call option with a strike of 52 when the price of the stock is 51.50. So now I have a call option. I have the option to buy. I can buy for 52 something that's 51.50. Does that make sense to pay $52 for something that's only worth 51.50? If I did that, I'd basically be losing money. So that is out of the money. Out of the money. Let's do one more. A put option with a strike price of 18 when the price of the stock is 18. Okay, so I can sell for 18 something that's worth 18. That's that break-even point, so that would be at the money. So you want to be able to recognize the moneyness of an option, and that's just looking at, again, if I exercised it right now, would it be of value, or would I be losing money, or is it indifferent? And that's the at the money case. All right. More terminology, so a lot of terminology here to options. That's one of the difficulties of getting up to speed in the area of options, is just getting introduced to all the terminology. So let's talk a little bit more about some other terminology you will see when you're dealing with options. All right, so one is called the premium. What is the premium? The premium is just another name for the price of an option, but it's common to call it the premium. So people will talk about the call premium or the put premium, right? And options, now initially I gave the coupon analogy with a call option. I said a call option is like a coupon. Now, most coupons are free, but options, things in financial markets are not free. So you have to buy them. And when we buy them, we call the price the premium. So just note that, premium equals price. All right, where does this terminology come from? It's called the option premium because of the insurance interpretation. Remember, with a put option, so in the example of a put option, think of the premium price as of the option as the cost of insuring against a drop in price. Maybe you've heard like your car insurance called, oh, my car insurance premiums, meaning the price you have to pay for that. So again, that's where that terminology came from, sort of relating to the idea that put options are commonly used as insurance. Okay, so again, premium is just price. Another thing you'll run into when you dive into options, if you do a deeper dive, essentially all options that I'm aware of have what's known as a multiplier. What is the multiplier? Most option contracts are actually for 100 shares. That is one call contract, okay, and they're typically called contracts when you purchase an option. One call contract allows the holder to purchase 100 shares at the strike price per share. Okay, so an example, one call contract with strike of X equals 50 allows the holder to purchase 100 shares. So if you actually exercise that option, you would not be purchasing a single share, you would be purchasing 100 shares, okay, but at the price of $50 per share. And so your total price, if you actually said, hey, I want to exercise this option, it would be buying 100 shares at $50 a share or $5,000 if exercised. Okay, so that's called an option multiplier. It's often not told to you explicitly. You have to know that the multiplier is there because both the strike price is on a per share basis and the option premium is on a per share basis. Okay, so in fact, if you look up an option and the premium is something like, oh, $3, right? And you say, oh, that's pretty cheap. I'm going to buy that. I buy that option. How much do you actually pay? You pay $3 and then they will multiply it by that 100 multiplier and you actually end up paying $300. So watch for that. These multipliers are embedded into these options in the option, and it gives you the option to buy 100 shares. One other comment about this. You say, okay, a call option contract gives me the right to buy 100 shares. Do I have to use all 100 shares? Maybe when I exercise my option, I only want to exercise and I want to buy, 18 shares, right? Do I have to buy all 100? Cannot do that. When you exercise the option, it is all or nothing. You either purchase all 100 shares or you don't purchase any. You can't go in between and say, I only want to buy 18 shares. Okay, so that's called a multiplier. And for essentially all equity options, you will see a multiplier of 100, meaning that each option is for 100 shares. I think this is the final terminology here. There are two standard types of options that you're going to run into. Okay, and the first one is called an American option. What is an American option? An American option is like a typical coupon. What do I mean by that? It can be exercised on or before the expiration date. That's like a normal coupon. If you have it and it says expires May 19th, I can use it anytime prior to that expiration date, or I can use it on the expiration date. So most stock options, that is options on individual stocks, are American style exercise, meaning you can use them prior to or including the expiration date. Okay, so that's the typical case. However, there are also options called European options. And European options are what? They can be exercised only on that expiration date. So if your expiration date is May 19th and you are sitting at May 17th and you say, oh, I'd love to exercise, you cannot exercise the option. You can only do it on May 19th. So that's like a coupon that says one day only, right? And one day only is May 19th, and that's the only day that you can use it. So that is a European option. And where do you see those? Most index options, there are options on some of the indexes that we've talked about, like S&P 500 or the NASDAQ. And most index options are actually European exercise style, meaning that expiration date is the only time that you can use them. Okay, so a lot of terminology here. Like I said, a lot of getting up to speed in options is just learning a lot of this terminology. All right, before we leave this section, I want to show you some examples of this, and I'll actually jump over to a web page. I've got a couple of slides here. This would be like an option on Microsoft, and what are the different things that we look at for an option? Well, there are expiration dates, right? And you'll see when I go to a quote, there are many expiration dates. There can be different strike prices, so you can actually look up which strike price do I want, which exercise price do I want. And then generally you will see, calls and puts on that. Let me jump over So I have in the slides here a screenshot of these were some different options, but I think it's better if I actually jump over and show you. Let's show you an actual quote of some of these. Actually, before I go to the quote, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you on, this is CBOE, Chicago Board of Options Exchange, and I'm going to show you how this terminology that we just went over shows up. So here I'm looking at equity options product specifications. Okay, so these are equity options, meaning options on like stocks. Okay, so let's scroll down and see some of the things that we talked about. All right, so first thing, symbol, underlying right here. What does this refer to? The underlying stock. The option, like a call option, gives you the right to buy what? Shares of the underlying stock. And right here you see the multiplier. Generally 100 shares of the underlying equity security. That is that multiplier that I referred to. And generally each option contract gives you the right to purchase 100 shares. Okay, let's go down and look here. So you can see this moneyness terminology. They're talking about strike price or exercise price intervals. In, at, and out of the money strikes are initially listed. So there's that moneyness, right? Let's go down to some others. When does it expire? Expiration date, third Friday of the expiration month. So that's telling you the day that it expires. Exercise style right in here, American. Okay, so we just saw that. Equity options generally may be exercised on any business day up to and including on the expiration date. So there we go. We see that American style. All right, so I just wanted to show you that all the terminology that we just talked about, right? When you dig into options, you're going to see that and you're going to see it used. Final thing here, let's just jump over and I'm going to look at some option quotes. So I'm on Yahoo Finance and I just pulled up NVIDIA and I went over here to options. And what do I have? I have calls. So this is one way to display those. And look what they have over here. So this blue, they're actually color coding for me options that are in the money. So again, what did in the money mean? That meant if you exercised it right now, it would be of value. And we can see there are a whole bunch of these different options. And what are some of the other things that you need for an option? So number one, there's strikes. So 50, 60, and we're going to scroll down. There are a whole bunch of those. These are call options, right? And you can see that there are many, many different strikes. So that was one thing that we referred to. Let me move back up to the top here, see if I can navigate this. What is right in here? Expiration dates. Expiration dates. You can see that there are a number of expiration dates. Maybe let's give us a little more time for an option. May 16th right here. And what I'm going to do is, let's see if they have different strike prices. And I'm going to put this in what's known as the straddle form. And what does that do? That gives me calls on one side and puts on the other. The strike price is in the middle. And that's kind of a nice way to look at it because I see the strike price. And if I want to buy a call, I go to the left. If I want to buy a put, I go to the right. Let's scroll down and let's see here. So the shading here, remember the blue was in the money, right? So I'm going to scroll down and let's see, the blue disappears. So what is happening when the blue disappears? I'm going from an in the money call to an out of the money call. And let's see why that would happen. If I look at the current price, 108 of NVIDIA. So this is what, 105. So that would be in the money if the strike for a call is 105. And then at 110, I'm out of the money. So in between there is where the at the money is. So that's the way the moneyness would be used. And it flips on the other side, right? Because over here I've got puts on this side. And for a put is the option to sell. So if I can sell at a strike of 120, that's this middle column here, and it's only 108, then this would be an in the money put, and that's why they're shading those blue, right? So they're actually using that moneyness and shading it to help us. What are the first columns on either side? It's the last price. You can think of that as the option premiums. So just very briefly here, maybe I'm interested in this option. I'm interested in NVIDIA. Maybe I think NVIDIA is going to go up. I want some time for it to go up, so I'm going to pick an option that has a May 16th expiration. And I'm looking here, and maybe I want to buy an out of the money. So maybe I would buy strike of 115. So if I do this, right now it would cost me what? $4.54 per share. Again, that multiplier is going to come in. It's going to get multiplied by 100. So if I actually click to buy on this in my brokerage account, I would pay $454. It would get multiplied by 100. But it's $4.54 per share. What does this give me the right to do? Well, this says, hey, before May 16th, you can have the right to buy NVIDIA for $115 per share. Okay, NVIDIA right now is only at 108. So if it goes up above 115, then what could I do? I could exercise my option. I could buy it for 115, and if it's worth more, then I would make some money on that. Now I need to take into account how much money I spent on this option, right, to see whether I would make money or not. But this is what it would allow me to do. On the other hand, if I think NVIDIA might go down, and maybe I have shares of NVIDIA, and I'm worried that it's going to, drop a lot, I might come over here and I might say, hey, look, I'm going to buy some put options on NVIDIA. For $3.76, I can buy a put option with a strike price of 100. So this guarantees me that once I paid this price, now I hold the option. Now, if NVIDIA ever drops below 100, I can pull out this put option and I can exercise it, and I will still be able to sell for $100. So I can look at these. As you see, there are many different strike prices, many different expiration dates, and so you can sort through these and you can trade these options. Okay, so I just wanted to show you this quote and show you the terminology that we saw here and how it shows up in these different quotes. All right, that's it for Option Basics.